Hi, thanks for spending time with us. We're here at VCU and we're going to talk about choosing your interns for Project Search. My name's Susie Rutkowski. I'm the co-director of Project Search at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. We are looking at some information from our teams that got 90 and 100% employment outcomes. 2 years ago, we got a grant from the Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation, allowing us to do research on 40 of our Project Search programs across the country who got 190% employment outcomes. The information that is in this webinar is directly taken from those 40 sites. So thank you, Mitsubishi, and thank you to those sites for your information and your willingness to share. The interns in Project Search make up the cohort or the class of each team. When you select those interns, that's probably one of the most important things that a team can do, because you are creating a group of interns that's going to spend the year at your host business that you're going to work with to build skills and eventually get jobs. So it's important that you take the time necessary and use the resources necessary to choose the best possible candidates that you can. So when you're looking at intern selection, you need to think about a few things. First and foremost, and probably most important, everybody on your team, every partner, needs to have a clear and consistent picture, if you will, of the intern that your team wants and needs to serve. So when I say picture, that includes things like, what are the disability types that we're going to be serving? What are the ages? What are some of the barriers that might permit us from working with certain groups, such as anything that your school district or your supported employment agency might have, such as some of the laws right now that may permit us or may prevent us from working with students that are a little bit older. No Child Left Behind right now says that students should graduate in 4 years, and that is putting a damper on some schools being able to refer students that are 20 and 21 years old. So you need to talk about all these things with your team and have a very clear understanding of who you are and who you aren't going to serve. This will impact your eligibility. This will impact families that are eligible, students that are eligible. It impacts funding. It impacts everything. So this is a conversation, and probably an ongoing conversation, that your team needs to have, and it probably won't be decided in one quick meeting. So first and foremost, again, be very clear and consistent so that everybody's on the same page with who are your interns, who are your candidates going to be. Next, you need a timetable. You need steps that you're all going to follow about recruitment and selection. We've got some guidelines coming up in this webinar about helping you do that, but not only do you have to have steps, but everybody needs to know them. They need to be clearly communicated so that every partner can let people in your partnership know when you're going to do things and how you're going to do things in terms of selecting interns. And then last but certainly not least, everybody, all your partners need to be engaged and involved in student selection. You need everyone, including essentially your host business, needs to be involved in not just choosing but blessing that cohort that comes to their table, that comes on board at the host business. So let's talk about those steps a little bit. We have a host site in Northeast Georgia, the Northeast Georgia Health System in Gainesville, and they said, we have an interview and final selection panel, including present interns. They were the only HAS team that said that they include present interns to select the next year's interns. What a great idea. During the interviews, present interns are note takers, interviewers, hosts and hostesses, escorts, and a team building committee in the holding room as the interns come in. I love that. How many interns to take? That also needs to be a great consideration with your partners. That is the first question you need to address. It's because how many interns impacts funding, it impacts sustainability. So that number, whether it's 6, 8, 10, 12, has to be sustainable year after year, especially for the groups that are hiring staff, which means the school and the supported employment agency. Keep in mind that the larger number of your cohort makes a bigger impact at your host business, but it's also more work and it also means more staff. Project Search says we want you to have a good, robust number. So in a typical Project Search community, that's probably about 10 students. We'd love you to have 12, but in a more rural community, that might be 6 to 8 students. You've got to think about that, figure out what is the pool that you're culling from. Can you get together with other school districts that might be next to you? Can you look at a little bit bigger geographic area to get more students? So how many interns, where are they going to come from, and are they all fundable? Which means, will they bring in money from both the school, Voc Rehab, and the supported employment agency so that you can fund those students and fund the staff that you need? And lastly, once you get to that magic number, that sustainable number, whatever it is, you want to add at least 1 or 2 extra interns because you're going to have students that you choose that don't end up coming to the program for whatever reason. They change their mind, they move away, they get a job. So if your number is 12, you might need to select 13. If your number is 8, you're probably going to need to select 9 or 10. All right, so who is eligible? How do you come up with that criteria? For a brand new Project Search team, begin with the list in the resource guide. There's an eligibility criteria list, and that's a great place to start. However, you're going to have to adapt that list to meet your own needs, the needs of your partner, the needs of your families, the needs of your students. But there's a few non-negotiables, such as everybody has to be eligible for Voc Rehab in order to secure funding for the students and for the supported employment agency. You also want to look at eligibility for DD services. It might not be critically important at the beginning of the program, but it's very, very important as the students get jobs so that they can have follow along. So make sure that many of the students are eligible for DD services. Again, you've got to think about age. You've got to think about things like you don't want students to go back to school after the program's over, so they need to know that this is their last year in school. And of course, they have to be committed to the goal of community employment. And that takes some digging. That takes some talking to families, talking to school people to make sure that the students that you're looking at aren't just there for a good experience, but are there to get the skills that they need and that they want to go to work. Lastly, you should look at that criteria every single year. Things change, laws change, people change, leadership changes. So it's a good thing to pull that eligibility criteria out, look at it again, make sure it still fits the needs of your program. It's a great leadership and it's a great partnership activity to look at that and make sure that we're all still on the same page with the kind of students that we want to serve, the number of students that we want to serve, the disability categories that we want to serve. So make sure that you look at that every single year as partners and as the steering committee members grow and change. The application is another document that you need to make sure is ready, but that you also want to adapt every year. So first of all, when you think about an application, it's not just for the students to fill out, it's really for the team to gain information about that candidate. So you have to think and ask yourself, what information do we want? What information do we need to make a good decision on that candidate? And how can I get that information? Can I get it through the application? However, you want to keep that application simple. You're asking families to fill that out. Anything over about 6 or 8 pages is really long. So think about, can I get some of that information from the school, from Voc Rehab, from the supported employment agency, so I don't have to ask the parents for everything. And then find ways to identify the candidate's voice. What is the student telling you? Does he really want to work? What is he telling you about his disability? What is he telling you about experiences that he's already had that makes Project Search a great opportunity for him? So find ways to do that through the application. So if he can't write, can he read his words to someone else that they can write it for him? Find ways to capture what the applicant wants to tell you. And then again, review that application every year so that you as a team are comfortable with that paper application. And can it be electronic? How easy can we make it for the partners, for the families, for the students that are filling it out? This is really important. It's important for your marketing. It's important for your potential students. It's important for families, but mostly it's important for your partners. All of your partners are coming together in Project Search to create this program, to create this opportunity for young people with disabilities. There's a lot of work and funding and resources that go into the program. So make sure that they're all recognized. One of the first things you want to do is create what we call a logo banner. So put all the logos together from your partners and create something electronic that you can use on every piece of information that you send out. And the first thing you could put it on is your application or any information that goes out in where you're recruiting young people. So it can be a header, it can be a footer, it can just simply go on the masthead of any information that you're sending out. So this logo banner is from Ohio. It's from a hospital called Grady Hospital, and it's part of the Ohio Health chain. And as you can see here on the left-hand side is the school that's sponsoring the program. Right underneath is our Voc Rehab partner. On the other side, on the right side, is the DD agency and the supported employment agency. And then on the very bottom are all the schools that are sending students to the Career Center. So everybody gets recognized. Everybody has a voice in the partnership. This is a great way visually to show my community, look at all the partners that are working together for Project Search. Marketing is key to recruiting interns. How are people going to know about Project Search? How are families and funders and organizations going to know if you don't market? So all of our HAS sites, our high achieving sites, distribute information and brochures about the program. However, in this day and age, we want more than brochures, don't we? So here are some YouTube videos and some short videos that programs have done that you can watch to get ideas. We're going to show a really short clip. It's about 1 minute and 10 seconds made by our program in Winnipeg, Canada. The unique thing about this video is that it was made by the program partners itself. It was made by the teacher and the students. It's using an iMovie app. They use the trailer version of the iMovie app. The iMovie app costs about $5. You can do it yourself, and it's really fun and energetic. You're going to hear really great music. You're going to see students. So even better way to get out what do our candidates look like than by watching this short video. So let's watch. All right, wasn't that great? Didn't you love the music? And I think what I like better is that you can actually see the students. You can see the kind of young people that we are recruiting, and you can see their smiles. You can see them working. So it's a great way to get that out, and you can simply pass on that link to families, to schools, to partners, to advocacy groups. You can really quickly get that out, and it only takes anyone a minute and 10 seconds to watch. So think about using the iMovie or different quick ways to create a video. All right, I said we were going to look at a timeline. Believe it or not, it takes almost a whole year to recruit interns for the program. So while you're having your program, you're also always in recruitment mode. So our HAS teams followed these recruitment steps to get the best possible young people that they could for the program. So like I said, in the beginning of the school year, that's a great time to review the entrance criteria, the applications, the rubrics, we'll talk about that later, and timelines for recruitment and selection. You wouldn't believe it, but sometimes people will call you the very first day of school and say, when's the open house for next year? I want my student in the program. So make sure you start setting those dates very early in the school year. And then start marketing. Start using those great videos, those brochures. Go to any kind of advocacy groups that you can. Go to open houses. Go to school meetings. Go to IEP meetings and talk about Project Search. Think about every single place that you can market and go do it. And everybody on your team needs to help. That's why everybody needs that consistent message about the Project Search interns. And then you want to have a big open house or an information session. In an ideal world, you would do that in November, December, or early January before people are thinking about the end of the year. So you want to capture families and schools and Voc Rehab and all the partners early in the year so that you can begin to give out that information and let people know about Project Search. You also need that much time to make students eligible for Voc Rehab, for DD services, for anything else they might need to do. Many programs that are already in existence, and especially our HAS teams, are telling us that they have tours. So prospective interns, families, and even classes of special ed students might come to your Project Search program and see what it's all about and make some decisions about whether students are going to apply or not. And then have a date when those applications are due and who they're going to be coming to. Is it the teacher? Is it the special ed director? Where are those applications going to go? One of the new things that a lot of the HAS teams are doing is holding a working interview day or a skills assessment day where all the candidates come and they go through some short selection activities where they do some activities that are linked to the potential internships that they have, where the host business is involved, and they the students can actually do some activities so that the team can look at them and look at their skills, and the students have a chance to show off their skills and abilities. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Once those applications are due, the students have an interview and the students have that assessment day. All of the team gets together to actually select the candidates, and they use that paper application, they use the rubric, and they use what they see the student do in the skills assessment and the interview to make those decisions. And again, it's important that your whole team is involved. Then the candidates are notified that they are in Project Search, and the eligibility, if that isn't complete by then, that begins. And the eligibility, we want that eligibility done for Voc Rehab and DD services as soon as possible. Before the school year's over, those HAS teams are meeting with their selected interns and families to review IEP goals and create an IPE for the Voc Rehab and really solidify what's going to happen in Project Search so that families have good information. We know when the program's going to start. And then oftentimes, even in the summer, the students and interns will get together for an orientation event, maybe a social event, so that they can get together, learn about each other, meet each other, become comfortable with each other as a cohort. On most programs that are using public transportation, do that travel training over the summer. So there's lots that happens, and you can see candidate selection takes an entire year. So just be thinking about that. I talked a little bit about the skills assessment day. Is it worth doing? It is a lot of work to set it up, but our HAS teams and we feel that it is very, very beneficial to giving your team the chance to be involved and work together. So one of the teams says, we can't be a team if we don't get together. And looking at the students that come in and having that skills assessment day builds respect for each other and helps us show our commitment to the program and to the interns. For many teams, it's the first time the team resolves any conflict in a positive way in terms of figuring out how they're going to do that skills assessment day. Those assessment stations should reflect internship tasks and the host business core skills and gives the interns a taste of the work that they will see at that host business. Typically, there's 6 to 8 assessment stations during that time, and it takes about somewhere between 2 and 3 hours for the interns to go through the skills assessment stations. You want to involve the host business managers and mentors so that they can actually develop the stations and the skills that the students will be doing. The students are going to rotate through those skills activities as well as a verbal interview in a half a day or less. And it's actually possible to see up to 20 candidates in a half a day. What informal assessments would you design for your host site? You have to think about, what does your team expect of the intern candidates? Are you at a hospital? Are you at a bank? Are you at a government site? What typically would those skills at those internships be? What would the students need? And go from there. Get information from your host site, from your managers, from your leadership. And then you're going to design those skills assessment stations together with your host business. Who would be on those assessment stations? Typically, you want a manager to man each of those stations. And you also have to think about, what materials do I need? What am I going to design a rubric for every station so that I can know ahead of time what I'm looking for in the skills that those students are going to be presenting to you as a team. We have a rubric, a selection rubric for the program. It's in addition to the skills assessment stations. It's in addition to the application. It's in addition to the interview. The original rubric has 17 strands. Again, that can be customized to your team, to your needs, to your students, to your partners. Make it useful. Don't use all 17 strands if you don't need it. Don't use all 17 strands if you're already doing a skills assessment station and you're already testing out some of those strands, like computer skills, like not verbal and nonverbal skills. So take a look at that rubric and customize that before your skills assessment day. That rubric needs to be a tool for conversation for your team, not to rule a student in or out. Some teams think that some strands are more important and should actually carry more weight. Maybe they should be worth 10 points instead of 5 points. Some teams that really do heavy weight on things like attendance and commitment to community employment. So that's certainly allowable. Think about all those things. So work with your team to add language, delete language, edit language and strands that'll help you select the students that meet your program needs and that will help the students best, that will benefit from the program. And then be open to discussion about the student that maybe doesn't fit the rubric process. Maybe a student that has a medical condition or a student with autism that doesn't go along with all the strands of the rubric. How might you support that student? What would it take for that student to be successful? Do you have the resources necessary? And if you don't, can you get the resources necessary? Some teams choose to put a student on a 6-week review, and that's a great way to actually see a student in action once the program starts. You just need some measurable goals that you're going to look at to see if that student can be successful in a project search environment. Again, that rubric is a tool for conversation, not something that should actually be a weapon to rule students out. I've seen teams have great conversations about what kind of supports do we need to put in place to make these students successful. The rubric as it exists now is on a scale from 1 to 5. Typically, students that get all ones, when we look at the rubric and measure them against the strands of the rubric, probably aren't ready for Project Search, but you could use that information to give to schools and families to help them get ready in the coming years. Students that get all 5s may not need Project Search. They may be able to go out and get a job on their own. A typical candidate receives numbers across the board on the rubric. This is a great team. This was a team that a team in Ohio selected. It's a big team. It's got diversity. So you want to think about that. And what I love about this team is that they have decided to do some volunteer work for their community, and they actually did this the summer before they started. What a great way for you to get to know each other before the program begins. So as we close out this session, we're going to show one more marketing video. And again, the team that did this video used a special event that happened at their host site in order to bring the news media to the host site and then create a video. It's about 2 minutes long, and it was when the governor of Ohio came to the Project Search site to sign some legislation into place, the Employment First legislation. What I love about this video is that it was professionally produced by the news, and now the team can use it. It also shows all the students not just talking, but actually at their internship sites. So again, as a marketing tool, it shows me potential students. It shows not only the students, but the work that they'll be doing. So that's a great help to potential students, to families, to funders, to Voc Rehab partners that might be thinking about, is this student applicable to Project Search or not? So let's watch this video.
5:30 now, advocates for the disabled hoping to help the state economy by expanding employment opportunities for people with special needs. Governor John Kasich signing an executive order today to make that a priority. And ABC6 reporter Dana Jay now takes us inside a program that's already up and running.
Maddie makes sure hospital rooms have all the supplies they need. Sindra helps prepare meals at Dublin Methodist Hospital.
It's fun.
And George has a hand in making sure supplies are sterile.
The hospital environment is extremely friendly, and you get to meet a lot of people and also get to learn how to do a lot of skills here.
They're all part of Project Search, which is all about learning skills and helping people with disabilities find meaningful work after high school.
We have taxpayers instead of people relying on the system.
Sue Hetrick's son, Micah, was at Governor John Kasich's side as he signed an executive order. It creates a task force to find more ways for people with disabilities to contribute to the economy. Micah, who walked away from the event with a souvenir and a smile, went from Project Search to a paying job at Sam's Club.
He's also a consumer of services. He's out there purchasing. He likes to go out to eat. He likes to buy gifts for people.
Ohio Health and Dublin Methodist have hired 9 Project Search graduates. There are more than 50 program interns. Jack gets linens where they need to go. Like George, he's always on the move.
There's a lot of things you can learn here, and it's a real fun experience.
The hope is it will mean work experience for many more. In Dublin, Dana Jay, ABC6 News.
Thanks. One thing to note in this video, as you can see, the news media did not use Project Search language. That doesn't mean that you can't use this video. That means that this is an opportunity for you to talk about what is people first language and to educate the media, to educate your community about what is people first language, how do we use it, how can we be respectful to people with disabilities, and now that you've got that opportunity, you've enlightened some more people about people first language, and hopefully the media in your community will now begin to use that. So thanks so much for tuning in and learning about student selection and learning what our high achieving sites do to choose the best possible candidates for Project Search. Thanks again.